I happen to be one of the co-founders and technical advisor for the Ducks on the Air Radio Club, which sponsored this special event. So what we're going to be talking about is whether or not a special event is for you, using our experiences as a template. Okay, so a little bit about me, so you know who I am and where I'm coming from. Uh, Again, my name is Scott. My call sign is N7JI. My original call was KA3NJI, which I received in 1984 when I was 15 in Maryland. I'm an enthusiastic DX, QRP, contest, and CW operator. My wife and both of my kids are hams. Um, in fact, my daughter, which comes down a little bit later at the bottom of this page, is W7HER. She's a junior at the University of Oregon and co-founder of the Ducks on the Air Club. I am the trustee of the Valley Radio Club in Eugene. Call sign is W7PXL. The founder of the Ham Station at the Eugene Science Center, which is a science and children's museum. It's been there since 2014. We operate pretty much every Saturday, although during COVID we haven't. We've taken the opportunity to roll out some station upgrades. So those are almost complete. Um, I'm an ARRL registered instructor and VE with at present 5 different VECs. I've given a lot of tests. I really enjoy that. I'm a firm believer in ham radio as an education for STEM and other disciplines. When I was at the University of Maryland, I was very active with the radio club on campus. That was W3EAX. And again, when the opportunity came up for me to be a co-founder and technical advisor to N7DUX, the University of Oregon Radio Club, I jumped at the chance. Okay, so given all that background, let's talk about the World Athletics Championships. So we saw this thing coming, previously called the World Track and Field Championships, run by an organization called World Athletics, which is in Monaco. So a 9-hour time difference from Eugene, Oregon, which is going to become very significant. So they run this World Track and Field Championships, now called the World Athletics Championships, every 2 years. And it's usually held in big cities like London, Paris, Doha, Tokyo, Los Angeles. And 2021 was going to be a very special year because they decided to go old school and go to Tracktown, USA as the host for the games. And Tracktown, USA, also known as Eugene, Oregon, population of about 250,000 as opposed to, let's say, New York City or Tokyo or Paris, which are a lot bigger. However, we do have the advantage of having the University of Oregon, which has a long and storied track and field program. We also have a place called Hayward Field, which is kind of a kind of a temple of track and field, and it was just renovated. That's what's shown in the picture. This was going to be the first time that it was done on American soil, and lucky for us, it was postponed 1 year until 2022 because of the pandemic, and that would definitely play into our hands. Okay, so we looked at this thing coming, which was a rather large worldwide thing, and I talked it over with a few people here in Eugene, a few people at the ARRL who knew something about special events, and nobody thought that anybody else was doing anything for the World Track and Field Championships, or the World Athletics Championships, as it's called. And so I knew that there were lots of other special events. You hear them on the air all the time, Whiskey 7 Whiskey, and then you have the, one-by-one calls, GB70E, which I had just worked. That was the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, 70th anniversary of having risen to the title of Queen. 13 Colonies. That's an annual event. The Route 66 event, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, they run events pretty much every race. So why not us? Why can't we do something like this, especially for a worldwide event? Well, the first thing to do was say, okay, do we really want to do this? And I thought, yeah, this is a once in a lifetime thing. I mean, the chance of this ever happening in Eugene again, it's kind of slim. So That being said, I said, okay, well, got to get in touch with these guys in Monaco, which meant that if I wanted to get in touch with them, I could either get to them first thing in the morning, which means that I could call at midnight, or I could wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. and make a phone call. So it turned out to be a very large organization. I found the phone number. And I called up and I finally got to talk to somebody who was at the front desk. And he said, "Oh, I know everybody here and I have no idea what you're talking about." So I explained to him exactly what ham radio is, exactly what we were looking at doing, the fact that this was a volunteer thing, it was non-commercial. And he said, I think I'm going to put you in touch with broadcasting. So he gave me the email for the broadcasting head, and I emailed him. I heard nothing for a month. And so I called back and I said, I have emailed several times. I've heard nothing. And he said, well, send me everything you've done and I will forward it to him and ask him to email you. So I got an email reply from the head of broadcasting. And he said, what exactly do you want to do? Are you doing a broadcast? And to which I looked at it and said, here we go again. So I explained it again over email that we wanted to run a commemorative ham radio station that was going to have worldwide reach. It was a worldwide event. Didn't hear anything back for 2 weeks. And then I called back and said, look, it's getting close. There's only 2 weeks until this event starts. That's not a lot of time to plan. I mean, we don't require a lot of time to plan, but that's not a lot of time. And I got another reply. What are you asking for? So I saw this word, which perfectly explained what we were going through at the time. Explained that, okay, we want to do a commemorative ham radio operation. It's not commercial. There's no money to be made. It's a commemorative station. So we'll be talking to people all over the world who are ham radio operators who want to make a contact with the commemorative station. It'll be a lot of fun. We have worldwide reach. And if possible, we'd like to use the official logo for QSL cards. To which I finally got an answer. Well, we can't let you use the logo. We can't license you to use it. But yes, go for it. The commemorative operation, we're okay with that. So long as it is something that is akin to a commentary. So we thought about that. It's like, well, everything we do is commentary on the air. You know, there's a lot of people here. There's a lot of traffic in the streets. Did you happen to see that race the other night? So we said, yes, we can do this. So then the gears were in motion. So we started to talk it over here. Said, how are we going to do this thing? So we looked at all the other special events that were out there. Most of them had a special one-by-one call, like W7W for like the Worlds, or W4D or K7P. And instead, we looked at the fact that this was occurring on campus at the University of Oregon. Wow, we had a brand new radio club with a call N7DUX, which we had just gotten a few months back. Said, what a great idea. We're just going to fire up that call. The trustee was good with it, and it was unique enough to get some real attention. You know, people would reply to us, hey, go Ducks, because the Ducks are the mascot for the University of Oregon. We decided at that point that we couldn't do it all alone. There was no point trying to build a station at the venue or even on campus that would actually have any kind of reach. So we decided that we were going to open it up, not just to the university community, not just the city of Eugene or surrounding areas, but the entire state of Oregon, where if you had a license, you can operate any band, any mode that you were licensed to do. And we were going to let you use the call sign so long as you, treated it well. We could use up to 4 band mode combination signals at a time. So you could, for instance, use 40-meter CW. Somebody else could be on 40-meter phone. Someone else could be on 40-meter digital. And those could all be on at the same time. The entire period, which was 225 hours, was divided into 1-hour time slots. We also recommended that People would self-spot once they put themselves on the schedule. And again, it was open to any licensed ham operating anywhere in the state of Oregon. And that would actually come into play. So, the two questions keeping me up at night this entire time. What if nobody wants to operate? And what if nobody wants to work us? Well, first thing to do, get some publicity. Contacted the ARRL, got into the ARRL letter, put it out on social media, put it out on qrz.com, sent out a few, which was then replaced with dozens, which was then replaced with hundreds of annoying emails to pretty much everybody I knew who had a license. And I told them to tell all their friends and anyone they knew that if they wanted to operate as part of this special event, all they had to do was tell us who they were, drop in to one of our planning meetings and discuss how things were going to work and just treat the call sign well. So we had a well-attended Zoom meeting where we had 20 something people show up. And at that point, I really had a good feeling that we were going to have enough operators to run this thing. As a group, we created a script because some people didn't really know what to say. We created a slow scan TV image because some people wanted to run slow scan TV. That came out of our meeting. We had a lot of questions. We asked a lot of questions and we answered a lot of questions, and we came up with a whole bunch of new questions that we didn't know how to answer, which would then be answered during the entire 10 days of this event. We had a good mix of smaller and larger stations. I actually have a smaller station myself. We have some people with some really big stations. They were going to be on as well. We also had a bunch of people who were very, very, very new, some of which had only had their license for a week or less. A few of our operators had been licensed for over 60 years. So it was really, it really ran the gamut. All of our documents were shared using Google. Everybody had the links so they could get into those documents. And a spreadsheet was available for every single day. So all 225 1-hour shifts could be signed up for one of 4 different slots. So that was 900 available band mode slots available, and people could sign up for any number of them. You could do 1, you could do 50. There was going to be enough room for everybody. I didn't think that would be a concern. Finally, as far as operating, we started at 9 o'clock on July 15th in the morning, ended at 9 p.m. on the 24th. This is a sample from the 16th of July. Notice that there was nobody on from midnight until 6 a.m. However, later in the day, we actually had 1 hour where we had 4 different band mode combinations active. We frequently had 3. We had operators operating from 7 different grid squares within Oregon and roughly 10 Oregon counties. It may have been 11. Again, we had operators ranging from 60 years of experience to licensed for less than a week. And when I say that, I mean literally 2 days. Mostly operating from Central and Western Oregon. If you look at the population density of Oregon, Portland and Eugene are in Western Oregon. The coast is in Western Oregon, obviously. And a couple of our operators were in Central Oregon. So Bend, Hood River, those areas. We operated many different modes and many different bands. So 160 through 6 meters, except 60. 2-meter FM simplex, also 70 centimeters. We also operated mobile. We operated portables. Some of our operators were camping, and we have a nice photo of their station in front of Mount Hood. As far as logging and operations go, again, we participated in local nets. We ran scheduled contacts when necessary. We call them SCEDs. People would basically email us. Now, the question that you might ask is, how did they find us? And I'm getting to that. We participated using the call sign in a couple of different contests. And we did a lot of self-spotting and just general operating. You know, somebody would have 4 hours available and they would just get on the air and operate. As far as logs go, everybody generated ADI files. ADI files are great because it's a largely universal format. I was then able to take those logs and put them up on Logbook of the World and Club Log continually. And so we had an idea of how we were doing as we went. And finally, wrapping it up, our last contact was made right around 9 o'clock on July 24th. We had 30 operators who participated, nearly 3,100 contacts. We're very close to the 3,100 contact mark. All 50 states, 94 DXCC entities, of which we've confirmed, even through Logbook of the World, something like 82 of them. So not bad for 10 days. Worked 30 CQ zones and a total of 254 hours of operations. So we averaged more than one station on per hour for the entire time. Our lookups on QRZ increased from about 1,000 to over 5,000 during the 10 days. So it was obvious that people, when they worked us or when they heard us, would look us up. And that turned out to be a great way for people to find out how to email us, how to schedule a contact, where to send QSL cards. FT8 was by a wide margin the most popular mode. Single sideband was difficult, although for some of the bigger stations, they were able to operate single sideband quite a bit. Also did a lot of FT4, RIDI, a lot of CW, and a lot of 2-meter and 70-centimeter FM for local contacts. So here's a map of where we were heard, actually where we worked all over the world. All over the United States, all over Central America, all over Canada, and over the North Pole to Europe, and west over the Pacific Ocean to the Pacific Rim. Okay, so finally, lessons learned. So this is really what we're talking about. The first thing to do you really want to do this? Well, there are some things that you have to figure out. Number one, unless you know somebody who works at an organization that you want to get information from or you want to get permission from, good luck getting their attention. You know, there are 3 million hams around the world, but a lot of people don't know what ham radio is and have absolutely no idea why you would be interested in doing this. Propagation is weird once you do get on the air. Sometimes a band that you think will be open is not, and a band that you don't think should be open is. Sometimes stations that you can hear won't be able to hear you because they're on a different continent. So don't get frustrated when you're on the air. You know, when a band is hot, stick with it. To that end, go where the hams are. You may find that a band sounds totally dead, but FT8 is really popular. And if FT8 is where all the hams are on that band, go there. Self-spotting, it really does work. If you put out on spotting networks or packet clusters that you're going to be operating as this special event on 40-meter CW starting now, and just start calling CQ, people actually will find you if they want to work you. Get as much publicity as you can. Put out information on every site you can think of. And if anybody gets annoyed by it, well, you know, you can always ask for forgiveness. Take a lot of photos. All those photos that we have at the right, those are people operating. You can see the one at lower right is Mount Hood out the window of the camper. You know, it's true that for those of us who took a lot of film photos, you know, you would take very careful care to get that one good photo. Take a lot of photos. You know, electronic photos are cheap and 90% of them you're going to hate. So we have, for this, for instance, 6 good pictures. And in the end, it really was as much fun as we thought it would be. As far as QSLs, let me move myself out of the way here. We also asked our friends who were at the event to take lots of pictures. And some of them actually came out to be pretty good, such as this one. This became our QSL card. It was taken by one friend of a friend of somebody in the club. And they managed to get a nice shot as the sun went down. And we looked at it and said, that's our QSL card. Besides the fact that, we can put all that text on it and it doesn't block anything and you can still read it and it still has a usable picture. As far as SASEs or self-addressed stamped envelopes and using the QSL Bureau, self-addressed stamped envelopes are a lifesaver and a time saver. They are great for USA cards and potentially Canadian cards as well. I don't know how many of those we will have gotten. Um, the QSL Bureau, we plan to be answering Bureau cards for years to come. If you're going to do that, make sure that you set up an account with your local QSL Bureau. Um, as far as direct DX cards, it's okay to ask for $2, for instance, to cover postage. And having a self-addressed envelope really saves time. We plan to be doing our cards using a pen on the back of these cards. Some people use stickers. I actually want our operators to get the chance to fill out cards using a pen. That's something that a lot of operators today don't really get the time to do and have no real opportunity to do it. So I think it'll be interesting. Put the QSL and other pertinent information on your QRZ page. You want people to know how to find you and how to get cards. And if you don't want other people's cards, make that clear. In our case, because we're a relatively new club, we actually do want other people's cards to go on our, so we can put them in a box and have it as part of our documentation that this thing really happened. So the conclusions and really where we're getting with all of this. So the first thing to ask is, should we do this? This might be a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it might take a lot of work to get somebody's attention to say yes. And do we really want to do it? Is it really worth it? And how much do you like being frustrated? So if the answer is, I really want to do this, don't plan to do it all by yourself. It's okay to do a lot of work yourself, but you're going to need help, especially when you look at the fact that, you're going to make a lot of contacts. And if you want to do it right, it really does help to not be the only person operating. Uh, Plan on answering a lot of questions. Plan on a lot of questions being unanswerable. That's why I say flying by the seat of your pants, because a lot of those questions you will not be able to answer immediately. So you have to ask yourself, okay, what defines success for you? Well, if success for you is creating a special event that works 50,000 contacts, then you might be disappointed. If success for you is having fun and doing something unique, then it might be worth doing. So our totals again were 30 operators, 254 hours, over 3,000 QSOs, all 50 states, 94 DXCC entities. For us, this was a fun and huge success. Now, another thing to do is think of an interesting way of saying thank you to your operators for all their hard work. So, at the end of the event, after the World Athletics people departed, they left a whole bunch of stuff, and it was being closed out at just a fraction of the original price. It wasn't free, but these are actually some pretty nice. Notice the ASICS logo on the bag. We were able to get for every one of our volunteers a swag bag, which is literally a bag, some homemade stickers. My wife happens to be very good at making stickers. The other thing that you see there is an acrylic laser engraved plaque, and we have a custom plaque that was made for everybody using the laser engraver that the university has in the makerspace. So it didn't cost us a lot of money to do this. It just cost us a fair amount of effort and a little bit of creativity. And with any luck, everybody's happy with what they got. And the fact that they participated, this is just an extra little thank you. Um, so I want to thank everybody for attending and ask if there are any questions. And right now we will switch to the live presentation. And again, thank you.
Well, hello everyone. I'm not seeing. Oh, here we go.
Yep, we're all back.
And
Can you hear me, Joanna?
I can hear you.
Good.
And we've got one question up. Excuse me. Did you provide results to the sponsoring organization, and did they make any comments? Were they even aware that this was happening?
Okay, so the sponsoring, and thank you, Mike. The sponsoring organization in Monaco, their head of broadcasting is based in London, and he was apparently here. And I sent him a note even that said, I'd sent him a note that said, "Hey, if you're in Eugene, give me a call, and we'll we'll have coffee or something." And I realized, of course, if anybody watched the event, it was streamed on the internet, and it was also on NBC, and streamed all over the world on TV channels everywhere. And it was I can imagine that he was really, really, really busy, and I never heard from him. But when I went to go pick up all the bags, I said, "Hey, do you don't know who I am, I bet." And he was from England. And he said, "No." I said, "Well, I'm working with this guy." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I know him." It's like, "Was he here?" "Yeah." I was like, "I'm guessing he worked about 22 hours a day." "Yeah, he worked about 22 hours a day." So they did have, they did give us approval to do it. I sent him a follow up about every other day, because I kept everybody who was an operator for this thing abreast of what was going on, and I included him in that email. So yeah, he knew what was happening, but he never replied. And this was just sort of like I kind of like viewed us as a little bit of an annoyance, because I just basically pestered him to the point where he said, "Yeah, okay, go ahead and do it." So he did say, "Let us know how you're getting on." So I continually did let him know how we were getting on, but I've never heard anything back. But you know what? That's okay. We had the okay to do it, and we had a lot of fun.
All right, Scott, thank you. And we've got another question from Joshua KN6 GFC, wanting to know, what is the process of obtaining a special event call sign from the FCC? And besides, he says it's a great talk you gave.
Okay. Thank you, Joshua. And as far as the 1x1 stations, the FCC actually doesn't. I believe the ARR is actually responsible for temporary disbursement, if you want to think of it that way, assignment of 1x1 call signs. So essentially, it's a temporary, and I've never applied for one, but basically, you can apply to use one for a period of time. And the interesting thing about that is that you might be, let's say, Whiskey 7 Whiskey. And then 6 months from now, another station is Whiskey 7 Whiskey. So it's kind of important when you're putting information out on QRZ, for instance, to indicate that Whiskey 7 Whiskey happens to, for this period of time, have been an alias for a different club. So that was one of the other reasons why we felt okay using the N7DUX call sign, which is the University of Oregon club call, because it would be permanently tied to this event.
And a question from Judy KK7HCH, asking you to explain what self-spotting is.
Okay, so self-spotting. All right, so if you think of the internet as this big global thing, it doesn't have to be over the internet. There are also radio spotting networks. Essentially, what you have is a network of computers that are all tied together, or in some cases, they could be packet radios, or basically some way of swapping data from place to place. And when you hear something and you think it's of interest for other people to know that station's there. So let's say that I'm in Oregon and I hear a station in, let's say, Vanuatu calling, and it's a nice strong signal. I would basically make a note to all other stations in Oregon or maybe other places as well that there's this station calling from Vanuatu, and hey, if you want to work the station in Vanuatu, the station in Vanuatu is on this frequency right now. So here's how to find them. So the process of self-spotting is basically saying, okay, well, we have this schedule, but we don't know that people are actually going to be able to find us, because the schedule that we were running, people would sign up for their own times. We had 900 slots available, so it was kind of difficult to think of the concept of keeping this big thing. Well, although this is an improvement. If we did it again, we would probably have something that was viewable by everybody so they could see when we were on. But the act of self-spotting basically is, I'm putting out there that, hey, this is me, I'm calling, so come find me. And if it's on the internet, essentially through like a spotting network, like DX Summit, that's one very large one that's worldwide on the internet. There are also packet spotting clusters. Basically, if you put your information out there and say, okay, this is N7JI, I'm operating as N7DUX, and I'm on 20 meter FT4 now. Come and find me. So, for contesting, obviously you can't do that. That's not something that's kosher to do. However, for a special event like this, self-spotting is a very okay thing to do, and it basically tells people who are paying attention and looking for you where to find you.
Now, some kudos from David, WB5KFP. Your presentation was very clear and thorough, quite helpful, wonderful job, and it was truly, Scott.
All right, thank you. How about another one?
We're right there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Fred,
should I go ahead and answer it? Go ahead, Joanna.
Sure. You can see the question. I don't have to repeat it for you.
I can read.
Okay, there you go.
What exchange did you use? Did all your operators actually obtain the same exchange information? Okay, well, we had a lot of people who were operating on digital. During there was a RTTY contest going on. So RTTY is radio teletype. During the time, there were also a few CW contests. There were some people operating on phone. And so, I mean, the basic exchange to be, a contact is a signal report. So if that's a digital contact, let's say FT8, you get a signal report in decibels. So it could be like -14 and a grid square. So we would we didn't even necessarily require grid squares. That's not really required. For phone, we would try to give real reports because we weren't operating like, a contest station. Not everybody was truly 5 and 9. Same thing with CW. Let's say we were doing I was participating with another person at the same time, where the exchange in the CW Ops contest is your name and your state or member number. So that's a valid exchange. So sometimes some of our people actually, they got on and had a rag to with somebody, take 5 or 10 minutes with somebody who was really curious about it. And because, we weren't necessarily trying to work 10,000 stations, we were just trying to basically be a special event station. Every contact was somewhat different. Every operator's style was different. We created a script for calling CQ and and exchanging information, but whether or not people followed it was really kind of up to them.
And
okay, should I go ahead, Joanna? Go ahead and you read it, Joanna. You read it.
All right. Tom KC3TMT says it was a truly nice presentation. And can you provide a little insight as to the purpose value of the QSL Bureau of ARRL?
Okay, well, I can honestly say that I am also the vice president of the Willamette Valley DX Club, and we actually run the 7th Area Bureau. And I am a card sorter. I sort all the 7 Victor cards. So if your call sign has 7 Victor in it, I'm your card sorter. The benefit of the QSL Bureau is that, for instance, if you start looking at how much it costs to send a card out and back, let's say you're stateside, it's about, in an envelope, 60 cents each way. So that'd be $1.20. If you're overseas and you send a card out and back, because you're typically going to pay for return postage, it could be $4 or $5 even by the time it's all said and done, just for one card. So the benefit of the Bureau is that the QSL Bureau is basically a bulk handling system for QSL cards overseas. And typically not for really rare ones, although it's possible, but for, let's say, Japan or Great Britain or Germany or South Africa, that are maybe rare for you, but really aren't that rare. So what ends up happening is that a whole bunch of hams in those countries send in cards to their local organization, like the ARRL. They box them up and ship them all over the world. And then when they get here, they get split apart and sorted and sorted and sorted again. And then once we aggregate enough cards to send to individual people, we then pay the postage. So the total postage for, let's say, 5,000 cards coming from another country is maybe $30 in shipping, plus the last mile getting from my house to yours. So that might be, $3 or $4 for a stack of 30 or 40 cards. So basically, if you don't mind waiting because everything has to get aggregated, that's the best way to handle large numbers of cards from overseas. It greatly cuts down the cost. I think the last bunch of cards that I sent out was about 250 cards, and it cost me to send them out a total of was it $14 plus about $6 in shipping. So $20 to send 240 cards comes out to about a dime a piece, and you can't beat that, so long as you don't mind waiting.
Okay, David, WB5KFP wants to know if he understands correctly that you actually only had 2 weeks to pull it all together from obtaining permission until start of the games.
Yeah, I tried. I started calling them in April, and the event took place started July 15th. I started calling the organization in April, and I tried every few weeks. I'd make a phone call, and eventually I finally got through, and that was probably mid-May. So a little about 2 months prior. But yeah, we didn't get. I had in my head, because I had participated in the ARRL Centennial event, which was all 50 states, and it cycled from state to state to state. I got to operate as W1AW/7 a couple of times, and so I was somewhat familiar with how it could work, where multiple people could operate from multiple different places using the same call sign, where you had like a global sign-up sheet for people to do. But yeah, we didn't get approval until this one day that I had off from work and woke up early, which was July 4th. And I said, yeah, I'm going to give it one more try. I know it's not a holiday in Monaco, so maybe they'll be there to answer the phone one last time. So I gave it one more shot. And yeah, that was 11 days before the start. So I had in my head how all this was going to work. But yeah, I basically had 10 days to pull it all together.
Harold, WJ1B, said, you did a great job, and you did, Scott. Did you have any real-time communication between operators? I was a K2D, 13 colony operator, and we used Slack.
So we did and we didn't. I mean, basically, we had an email list, and it wasn't real time per se, but I would send out updates, and I wasn't hiding the names or call signs or email addresses of anybody. Everybody had everybody else's name and call sign and information to get in touch with them. We'd swapped emails. We'd swapped phone numbers in some cases. Um, there were a couple people who we were texting back and forth from time to time. But by and large, there wasn't really a need to do that. Everybody could get a hold of me. I mean, I was kind of on high alert during the whole time, even though I was, still going to work, and my phone was sitting there. And if there was, some kind of emergency or something, people could, get on the phone. I was also listening on our local repeater here, just in case anybody had any questions. But I got to say, it ran really smoothly. Everybody did a great job, and people very quickly got used to the fact that we had this online sign up sheet, and everybody had the link to modify it. And when somebody saw an open slot, what we realized was that a lot of people, their schedules are as strange and flexible as mine, and you don't really know what you're going to be doing 2 hours from now. And so when you see that, oh, I've got an hour open, let me look at the slot. Let me look at that time slot. Oh, look at that. There's an opening. We've only got 2 operators scheduled. I'm going to grab that one. And they grab it and they get on, they get on 17 meters, and it turns out 17 meters is kind of dead right now. So they tune around and they say, okay, well, nobody's on 30. And they just change the spreadsheet and get on 30 meters. And so everybody was really good about updating the spreadsheet so that we didn't have any, multiple operators on multiple operators on the same band mode combination. I don't think it even happened once. The other thing was, because this was a distributed event where we had people operating from all over the state, because this was an Oregon thing, we had some operators who were out in Eastern Oregon, and on a given band, we possibly couldn't hear them from here in Western Oregon. So it was really important for everybody to, to make sure that you were paying attention to the spreadsheet. And like I said, everybody, to my knowledge, did a really great job with that. The other thing that was interesting was that once they were rolling, let's say that you got a band that's like wide open, and you're calling CQ and people are just answering you left and right, and it's 11 o'clock, my hour is up. But you don't really want to give that up because the band is really hot. So you look at the spreadsheet and say, oh, nobody's on this band next hour. You just pencil yourself in and keep going. And we had a lot of people doing that as well, myself included.
Okay, and Tom is thanking you about letting us know what the purpose/value of the QSL Bureau ARRL is. He didn't know that it existed until you mentioned it, so thank you again.
Yeah, if you work a lot of DX, it's a way to really get costs down. And I know a lot of people. I'm a heavy user of Logbook of the World, but to be honest, I still like getting paper cards. I think they're cool. I think the other thing we did was that as far as the cards coming in, we had a stack of 70 or so self-addressed stamped envelopes within about 2 weeks of the end. And so I put out a note that said, hey, we're going to meet over on campus. It's a nice sunny day, and we're going to have a QSLing party. And there were, only a couple of us who had ever had the experience of filling out a paper QSL card, which was really cool. And that was one of the reasons that I thought it would be kind of nice to actually have people, filling out QSL cards by hand as opposed to using a computer to print out labels, because they had never done it before. This is another part of ham radio that a lot of people, because of Logbook of the World, have never gotten a chance to do. So, and as Mike said, I see that an ARRL benefit.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Mike.
All right, and I think, Scott, that there are no further comments or questions.
Have we drained the comment pool completely,
Well,
Joanna?
unless somebody wants to come in. Oh, here we go from Mitchell.
Fire away, Joanna.
KJ7UOH. Mitchell, are your organizational forms available, like schedules, signups, and such?
Absolutely. If you want to do something like this, schedules, signups really were just basically me sending out annoying emails. And I've taught so um, I've taught a lot of classes over the last 6 years. I've taught I've taught 30 licensed classes, both local and remotely, over the last 6 years. And I keep emails. You know, when people sign up, and I have a list of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who I've run through my classes. So if something like this happens, you know, I'll put out a note on all of the Facebook groups that I belong to. We've got club websites, but honestly, that's not the bulk of it. One of the best ways to get the word out there is go through the ARRL. And notice Mike W7VO there. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, he's really good at responding to things like that. He's our Pacific Northwest director, Northwest Division director, technically. So if you have something going on in his division and you send it to him, he will forward it to the league, and it goes out in a nationwide email mailing. A lot of people who like, for instance, so we just mentioned the QSL Bureau. I actually, being the VP of the Willamette Valley DX Club, we run the 7th Area Bureau. I know for a fact that a lot of people, for instance, don't know that there is a QSL Bureau that exists worldwide for the benefit of, hams wanting to send cards overseas at considerably lower rates than you could do directly. So there's a lot of things that will come about when you start getting into things like this. But yes, I will absolutely, if you want, send out schedules, sign up forms, whatever. You can use my templates. Nothing terribly exotic. The most important thing is just to, have something that a lot of people can collaboratively work on.
And we got something from Judy, KK7HCH, thanking you for an excellent presentation. And she is from the TBI Ham Club.
Yes, I saw that. Hi, Judy.
And
do we have any other questions?
I'm looking.
Getting close to the top of the hour.
Some of this popped up last second, but I'm not seeing anything more, Scott. So this might be the end of it. Unless somebody out there would like to ask or say something, please come now. No.
Right, I don't hear anything.
Well, I don't see anything either.
Joanna, I'd like to thank you for reaching outside your comfort zone and and being the moderator.
And Joanna keeps reaching outside her comfort zone because she's very shy and she's very inhibited. She's not. She is an introvert, but she's working on it.
But Joanna was also one of our operators during this thing. That was the first
I was an operator, and I wasn't planning on it, but I enjoyed it so much that I signed up for another one, and that was great fun. I learned a little bit about running FT8, and I'm looking forward to doing more of that. And I want to thank Scott for being such an excellent presenter, such an excellent teacher, and such an amazingly patient person. He's really great. And Mitchell, KJ7UOH, is telling me I did a good job. Well, Mitchell, thank you very much. I keep trying.
All right. Well,
So I think, folks, we're going to call that good. We're running into the next hour. I don't know what presentations are scheduled then. But again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for your kudos. And we're going to end the show here.
Enjoy the rest of the show. And
Really?
you might see me moderating a couple of other presentations, depending on where you're dropping in.
Depending on which ones you go to, you very well may see Scott. Yep. I'm done moderating for this, and I'll see you maybe at another show. Okay, take care, all.
Thank you, everybody. And just